on the docket for us today is to review the pricing and get the board to weigh in on which direction we go with our three options. So I'm going to turn things over to Max now.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the main thing here today, and the only thing, is whether we're going to advise the commissioners on, or what we're going to advise the commissioners on as their choice for GIS moving forward. We do have three options. We have renewal, which is the minimum that we need to do. If we want to continue using GIS, we must do this. Itemized, the only difference between the renewal and the itemized is we add a few insight licenses that have been requested. And then the difference between itemized and the EA agreement, we get an unlimited amount of licenses for various different products, as you can kind of see through this table. I know it's a little bit difficult to see right here, but you all have received this in your email. In my personal opinion, after looking through all this and doing as much investigation as I possibly can, I have my recommendations, but I'll let anyone who wants to ask a question about this do so at this time.
Max, would you mind going over the, I see uncapped, and for anybody who may be struggling because that is kind of small, what are the extra add-ins for each as you read from right to left on the document?
From right to left?
Yeah, there are no add-in. I mean, that's bare minimum, what we have now. That is with a few extra things added, and then in the EA, looks like there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things that are added in there as part of the EA. There you go.
Okay, so the main things that this will allow is currently with the GIS contract that we do have, there's a few weird things that are in their contract that I didn't realize was a thing that actually have been brought up before in this advisory board meeting. So currently, and I know, Eric, this was a big point of contention from you that we talked about a while back. It is actually true that only one person in the county is allowed to contact ESRI for support. That is on their thing. Going to the EA allows us to set up 5 different support contacts, so we could have one in each department. That's a super small thing that I didn't even know about until actually going through all this. In addition, it gives us a few more conference registrations for each conference that they have. Most of that stuff isn't terribly important, but it's just small little things. The other thing that we're going to add is the main thing are all the different licenses for Pro, which allows us to grow and expand as much as we want to. Expand outside of the county if we wish. Whereas if we wanted to get one single advanced primary ArcGIS desktop license, right now, if we went with the EA, we'd have an unlimited. If we wanted to add just one more under the renewal, that's an extra $3,000 a year. So it gives us really an unlimited potential for growth and expansion, whereas the itemized, we're going to pay for each step we take in one way or the other. And then some of these other, the geostatistical analysis, schematics, workflow manager, and data reviewer, those are just going to give us more tools in our toolbox. So that'll be more things that our people can use to advance GIS in the county. Things we don't have access to currently.
And on the cost analysis, it looks like the difference being, if you look at where we would go if we were on the far right there at 290,000 versus 365,000. So we're talking about roughly $25,000 a year difference between what we have right now and the enterprise agreement then. That's rough math.
That is correct. So, and the other thing on that note, I want to point out is that, let's say we go through these 3 years, that's a $75,000 difference over these first 3 years. Every year after that, it becomes almost a $90,000 difference. So looking past this 3-year agreement, what we can do is after 3 years, if we find that this isn't what we want, we got all these tools and it's not what we need, we're not utilizing it to the best of our ability, we can back down and grab just what we need. Take only the things that we want, that we need, and go with a more appropriate software package for us instead of bumping up to it. So this gives us all the tools. We can figure out what we want, what we need, and what's best for the county in the long run.
Any questions or comments?
Max, can you scroll back over? The licensing on the uncapped, that means there's any number of users can use it, right? We're not capped on the license, okay.
won't have to hop swap.
Yeah, because historically that has been problematic
In your office.
in certain situations, yeah. Mhm. Thank you.
So what are the next steps? Assuming we approve all this, what is going to be the next steps?
So, assuming we approve this here, this will then go to the commissioners on Monday for their approval. From that point, we'll grab all of the licenses for the software, and then we will begin to build all of the infrastructure portions of it into our new system. And that will start either the 13th or the 20th. Still working on that specific timeline. That should take approximately 45 days. And that includes fixing the slowness of the current system. Sometimes it takes up to upwards of a minute to load certain things. This will bring it down to a reasonable level. In addition, we'll also be introducing the Geo Event Server, among a few other items. From there, 45 days after that, we will have access to everything. So a lot of training on the new stuff that we have, testing, making sure, organization, figuring out exactly what we want to do with this and go forward and begin, during that 45 days this will happen, but that'll be planning a roadmap for us. We have a big roadmap to work off of for each department, so it'll be taking that roadmap, getting actual metrics by which we can determine whether or not we are going in the correct direction and we are meeting our goals and expectations. And then it's doing it. Getting the feet to the pavement, making sure that everybody who's working on this has everything that they need. They're not being roadblocked.
Where are we thinking about with the GIS sub-organization or whatever you want to, the GIS focused?
So, again, this is just my personal opinion on it. I know I've expressed it in a previous meeting, but my thought was to have the user group expanded a little bit more and brought with a little bit more direction. I've not personally sat in on one of those, but I intend on sitting in on the next one. Because I know when Mark was leading it, it was kind of a waste of time for everybody involved. I've not been in one since, so I don't know what to expect. But they're going to be the ones that are actually going to be doing the work, so I want to make sure that they know what they need to do. Then as far as this board is concerned, reorganizing this and splitting off a GIS board to focus specifically on making sure that the user group is accomplishing their goals and meeting their expectations. Furthermore, making sure that the GIS board actually puts forth goals and enforces them.
So have we decided that is what we're going to do? We're going to split off, or where are we with that decision, I guess is my question.
We've not made a
okay.
formal decision, but that is my recommended course of action.
Okay, thank you.
When you mentioned the user group needs to know what they have to do, et cetera, it sounds like they're going to have an active role, which we've talked about being an unmitigated disaster. And we've assigned stuff to them in the past, and it's gone really badly. And I guess the latest thing I saw, my staff CCs me on the user group thing. In March, the meeting was canceled because there was nothing to talk about in February. In April, like, the agenda just keeps talking about how there's nothing to talk about in February all the way to the last meeting. I don't know that much has changed, or that a board that, I have little faith in that board too, that group. Not sure what its bylaws or its intention, but I really don't think that's a formal decision-making group the way it's set up. Anyway, I guess my comments on this enterprise agreement is kind of have like two hats that have a conflict of interest with one another. The assessor's office would benefit greatly from the EA agreement, and for that reason, I think we should move ahead with it with some conditions. Right now, we bear the full cost of ArcEsri Online and everything that comes with that, and getting that off our books would be a huge step forward for us, allow us to focus less on, one of our goals is to focus less on technology with respect to our finances and more on things that are directly assessment related without losing the technology that we've built and is used by so many departments in city and county government. This is a first step to that, and I hope it'd be a good roadmap to, I mean, we saw, this is kind of like how we got aerials off of our books, and now we're getting JS off our books. Maybe we can get seamless docs and other stuff of Blossom off our books too by this same kind of process. And so, yeah, the assessor's office has no business paying for this stuff, and I can't stress enough how good it would be to not have to. Also, we are excited about Insight licenses, which would also allow us to phase off of, hopefully, the stat software we use now. From an assessment standpoint, this is great, and I support it wholeheartedly. I watched the last few DoIT's meetings, and I feel like, although I support this as assessor, this board that has oversight on GIS, limit duplication, I feel like this has been pitched not exactly candidly. Beacon and Hub, ArcEsri Online, are ways to work around not having a well set up, well-defined, properly licensed SDE. They function independently from SDE intentionally. Beacon is also a geospatial data server that can house a lot of this information. And so failing to do anything, letting this burn down, would not affect GIS for the vast majority of people or people outside this building. It would affect a lot of the internal users by losing that infrastructure and portal, and I'm not recommending that, but one thing that kind of gets me is in this meeting, or 2 meetings ago, we kind of threw Mark under the bus for not, setting up portal right, and I'm not going to defend him. He didn't, but also we hired a contractor to set it up. And then what happened to that contractor? How much did we pay them? What did they do? And now we're paying we're talking about paying another contractor to do something that we already paid a contractor to do. And I feel like just from a basic fiscal controls, like if we paid someone to do something, we have to follow back, And I've talked to Max and Tracy, both seem like really unable to answer like how much they were paid and under what contract and what the contract entails and what was their scope of work. So yeah, I don't recommend paying. I mean, think about like in your personal life, would you hire a contractor to fix your home, have them wreck your house, and then just hire another contractor to fix it? I don't think any of us would act like this with our personal funds. So I think that should be investigated. Also, we're talking about something that going to affect a lot of departments. And we don't really have had good ways to implement this technology. I mean, we always come back to like, we'll have the users do it, and then that never works. I have a memo here from Wagner, Irwin, and Chile, which I've mentioned that this memo exists, and its content to the Personnel Committee, to this board, and others. Specifically with GIS positions in the county, it is recommended the GIS positions collectively be reviewed for distribution of duties. Several of the duties were similarly defined in highway, GIS, and assessors positions. The reassignment of duty should be a collaborative effort among departments with GIS positions. This is coming from the contractor, if you're not familiar with Wagner, Irwin, and Chile. The county contracts with them to basically determine our staffing rate of pay as in organizational structures. I think that should happen as a condition of any new infrastructure purchases. Any major, like 3-year commitment to infrastructure should also come with it some sort of what they are calling assignment of duties. And so to me, those go hand in hand. Following their recommendation, I think there should be a mechanism for following their recommendation if we are going to use them for that purpose. So anyway, that's my take on this, is it'd be great for the assessor's office. It's concerning because I feel like there is some misinformation about what these funds support and what they don't support. Yeah.
Thank you for your input. Fortunately, I've answered most of those questions already, so I'll just go back over them real quick. As far as the responsibilities and roles, I know you weren't here last week, or not last week, but at the last meeting, we did talk. That is one of the main things that we're going to focus on. And Tracy and I have had a lot of conversations about making sure that responsibilities and roles for everyone is defined very specifically, or at least as specifically as we can get without being unnecessarily cumbersome. So that's one of the huge things we're going to focus on. As far as the user group making decisions, they're only going to make decisions about how they do certain things. It'll be up to the GIS board to push them in the direction and make sure that they're going the direction that the county wants. That'll be the kind of focus of that GIS board. So that'll hopefully avoid a lot of those issues that you were talking about, and the individuals that I have in mind for that GIS board are most of the individuals here on this board, yourself included, the people who have active administrative almost liability in GIS. So getting that correctly worded and set up, I think, is a big part and a big step going forward. Because, yeah, I can say everything that I need to right now to make it sound good, but it's going to be on your shoulders to actually make these things good. I can't, I'm just here to get the ball rolling. It's going to be up to each one of these departments that have an active interest in GIS to make sure that the ball stays going in the right direction. And I don't remember what your first comment was. There were a few nested ones in there. So do you remember what that was?
No.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of circular speak, like we are in this situation. We have this user group, we have this board, we have people like me involved. I mean, these mechanisms aren't new. This isn't something new you're trying to do. And I'm saying, like, we should follow their advice. You're saying, we've talked about it. Well, cool. What's the deadline? When were those, when is that coming out? And I mean, this is similar to, you can go back and look at when we talked about mission statements and policies. It was similar. We're going to do it. We're going to have it. There's going to be boards. Everyone's going to be involved. That stuff hasn't happened. It's still very rough framework that asks up some, I mean, so we've been promised stuff in the past like this, and it's like you're talking about, like, you and Trace are going to make it real clear what everyone's role is. And
No, we aren't going to be. It's going to be the GIS board, because
the board or the user group or
the
us?
GIS board,
So
all the
a board
department
that
heads.
doesn't exist.
Correct.
That's comprised of us here who've been working on this, like,
The DoIT advisory board does not have the responsibility or the action to make those kind of adjustments. The advisory board itself is only, if you look at the charter, it's supposed to inform the commissioners of new technology that's coming out that we can use, and also advise the county on what direction they should take technologically. It's not there to make policy. It's not there to make any of these other things. That's why I think it's best that we get a GIS board specifically for that purpose, so that we can have a board with power that can do these things and can enforce them. I'm not saying we just create a subcommittee. We need someone to take and do all of these things that I'm talking about.
so this will be a empowered board that can officially make decisions. It will have oversight over GIS.
That is my desire, yes.
Can you make a motion on that?
I am not a voting member. I cannot.
I mean, right.
I don't think I'm allowed to
it
do
sounds
that.
good. Why not, like, let's recommend that that's what happens. If that's what, is that what so you're saying there should be I mean, have you talked about who, like, is the county going to make an ordinance? Who's going to create this?
I
Who's
am
gonna
not a
do it?
lawyer. I am just an
Right.
information technology project manager. I just have ideas. It's up to people that have the power and the wherewithal and the knowledge to actually do all that. So if that's something that you all want to do, I don't know what's required to make that happen. I just have the idea.
My feeling is probably would take an ordinance, and I would, I'm going to refer back to some conversations that we've had previously at board meetings and trying to understand how, because we had that group before. And I think Zach and Shelley were around in those days and were part of that process. And I'm not absolutely clear on how or why that happened, but it did. So what you have now is you have the DoIT Advisory Board that has us as participants, assigned to it, and we're not people involved in day-to-day use of the technology. And there has been a huge learning curve for us to even try to understand some of this stuff, and there's still pieces that we miss because we don't work in it day in and day out. So I think it is ripe for evaluation. I'll have a conversation with Doug the first part of next week and have him dig into the history of it and see if we can, rely on Zach and Shelley, again, folks that are, I've been here since 15, and that happened before 2015 is my understanding.
I mean, no offense, guys, but like a lot of these, we will do this, like this stuff doesn't happen. I mean, even talking about trying to figure out what we paid the last contractor to set up Portal, we had so many conversations about it and how it's a relevant discussion. We need to figure it out. I mean, it's not hard to, I'm sure Bob could tell us, if you told Bob, hey, how much do we pay to these people and what dates, he could tell us. I'm sure that contract exists, but the fact that no one on this board has the power or knowledge to even tell us what those people did and what we paid them, and now we want to pay another, like, the stuff you're saying you will do could be done, could be in place right now. This is it's going to be governed by this board with these people who are empowered in this way by this county ordinance, and we're going to spend $300,000 for the next 3 years, and they're going to make, but none of this is done, and we've been talking about it for years. And Max, like, you can say whatever you want, but when it comes down to it, you're like, I just have ideas, and I have no idea who could possibly implement any of them. And that's not very convincing, like, just based on the history of this.
How long have you been in government?
2008.
Okay, so only a little bit longer than myself. The one thing I've known is that it really is kind of difficult to get anything going quickly. Nor is it necessarily the best thing to do. We don't want to rush into things. So we've been thinking about all this stuff for a long time, you're right. We've been putting off a lot of the stuff. So far since I've been here and have been acting on it, I've gotten a lot done. And that's what I'm here to do today. So, we can have discussions all day. What I brought everyone here to do today was to vote on whether we go after the EA agreement and advise that to the commissioners or not.
All right, Max, I'm going to get us back on topic. I'll make a motion, we recommend for the commissioners to approve the EA agreement for the 3-year for $365,000.
Second.
So Ben had the initial motion, who had the second? And Bob has the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Any other business to be brought before the board?
None.
Okay, last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second,
Second.
and we stand adjourned.